Relations and Country Director for Spain of eDreams Odigio. Julio Bruno, Global Vice President Sales for Travel for Business of TripAdvisor. Johan Svanström, President of Hotels.com Worldwide and Venere.com and Expedia Incorporated. Y Bernd Fauser, Global Head of Travel Sub-Accounts of Google Incorporated. Modera Joan Vilà, Presidente de Hotel Beds. Bueno, menos mal. Porque además
Is still holding hands. They put us together on purpose, I think.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. No? Good afternoon.
It's not working.
No.
It's not working.
Good afternoon, everybody. Pero no se oye.
If I mention Bing, don't kill me. You know that? Because, yeah, we are doing the research now.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us in this first afternoon session. The panel that we are going to start is called The New Challenges and Opportunities of Tourism in the Changing Digital Economy. If we go a bit backwards to the beginning of the century, this industry completely changed with the massive development of the Internet, the growth that the Internet brought to the industry. Then Google helped a lot customers providing information, and also help a lot the different players, giving them a vehicle to advertise their brands. This environment makes that plenty of new businesses, what we call OTAs, online travel agencies, grow across the globe. Some of them, they were domestic, some of them regional players, some of them, they become big groups, like, for example, the Expedia group or Priceline, mainly because of the growth of Booking.com. Also, we saw in the last 4 or 5 years a big change in the mindset from the big European tour operators embracing Internet, mainly in the northern countries. I'm talking about Scandinavia and the UK. So in the last 2-3 years, we have seen plenty of new things. I think one of the things, or the new businesses that they have started few years ago, but in the last 2-3 years they've grown massively, is meta search. Clearly, the spin-off of TripAdvisor was a very good decision and created value for the shareholders, but also other meta search like Trivago or Kayak, they have grown significantly in the last years. Probably the most important new opportunity, and for some people it can be threat, is mobile. The customers, they are changing from desktop to mobile. They want to do more and more their reservations in their smartphone or in their tablets. Big data is another important opportunity. Clearly, social media, and not only as a way to interact with the customer, but also a way to get information from the customer to really provide the customer much better product and services, is becoming increasingly important. And also they have a new business model, like the peer-to-peer Airbnb. We have here an excellent panel. I'm thinking we are going to cover all these new trends that they are affecting the market in the recent years, and that probably they are going to affect in the near future. We are going to start with mobile. As I was mentioning before, the customers, they have embraced smartphones, they have embraced tablet, and they have started using massively these devices to go to the internet, to get information, to make reservations, to share their experiences with their friends. This is really important because I don't know the exact numbers, but I think now around 10% of the bookings, they are already done through mobile. Probably the exit run rate of this year 14, it will be very close to 20%. And in a few years' time, we will see that the majority of the bookings, they are done through mobile devices. Becoming desktop or laptop, like a kind of a specialist kind of device to interact in the internet. So, starting with you, Javier, what your companies are doing about mobile, about mobility in general, and what are you doing in particular with the need for the customer to find the same information, the same company, if it goes to the mobile device, if it goes to tablet, or if it goes to the desktop, they want to have the same experience. And this forces you to work in several occasions, to work in different platforms. How are you doing about this, and how important is mobile for your companies? And this is a question that I would like to ask as well to the rest of the panel. So in this order.
Hello. Good afternoon to everyone. On eDreams of the year, we have been investing in mobile for a couple of years. I would say that currently our mobile penetration is above the average. Depending on the brand, we have more or less mobile penetration, but between 12 and 14%. But we are not satisfied with being above the average. It's too low, even if it's above the average of Focusrite. Basically, we are investing in, first, what you pointed out clearly, that is to have exactly the same product on the different devices. Because we know that certain statistics talk out that 75% of the purchases start in a mobile, and then 4 of them end in a tablet, and 61 in a computer. So we need to follow the customer and to show the customer the same product. Customer cannot have exactly the same experience because the medium is different, and mobile requires more simplicity. It's more direct than desktop, and the breadth of and the richness of information is different. But at least you must ensure that you have the same product. Another different thing that we are working is that the same booking process can start in one device, and then flight exactly the same, then book exactly the same flight or hotel in another device. That this is not yet done. We are working on that. Another thing that we are doing is something that is no secret. That is multi-channel login so that the customer can have his own data, his own booking history, or his purchases, no matter in which device the customer is. And this is very important. And we are preparing, because we know that there is a lot of money on mobile and location. We are preparing that world in pushing relevant offers, combining both things to our customers. In destination services, for example, is something that we are working hard.
Julio?
Thank you for having me here. At TripAdvisor, we think, or we want to be where the consumer is, and the consumer is moving mobile completely. Out of 260 million monthly unique users that we have in our site, 108 million now are mobile. And this has happened in the last 2-3 years. So it's growing exponentially. We know that while on holiday, 9 out of 10 people use their mobile device. And what do they do with that? So we know that, of course, apart from calling the family or the friends, they are looking for a restaurant, they are looking for activities to do while they are at the destination. So it's no longer, what we see is a moving from buying the whole package, at origin, but actually buying the activity at destination. And for that, around 32% of the people that we have measured in TripAdvisor are using it to look and then book activity if they can at destination, which means that we have to have, if I were, in the destination service industry, I will have my web completely optimized for mobile in order to serve my customer. Somebody was telling me yesterday, originally when TripAdvisor, 3 years ago, we were talking about mobile, it was a very clunky experience. And then we really changed. And we are now all in native apps. So when you look at our TripAdvisor, not just the city guides, but everything we do there, is all in native apps, like my colleagues too. And so we optimize content obviously for iOS, for Windows Phone, for Apple, etc. And we see this the future. I mean, it's the present, but it's going to be much more the future. And of course, mobile for us is also tablets and phones.
Johan?
We also do BlackBerry soon.
You do?
It's a small opportunity, but thanks for having me from hotels.com and also Venerate within the Expedient Group. So just like the previous speakers, big focus on mobile since quite a few years for one simple reason. That's where the users are going, so you got to follow. I think the big challenge that we are about to overcome now is that you had to develop your app, your mobile phone web, your tablet app, iOS, Android, Windows, etc. It's quite a big burden from a technology development perspective. Like, unless you just had millions of more money and develop all these different platforms, only a few companies could do it really well. I think the technology that we are seeing today obviously enables to have one single platform and do both, for example, your app and your mobile web experience, and much more coordination between also tablet and mini tablet and phone screen sizes. So it's an opportunity for smaller players because I think the technology has advanced that you don't have to hire another 100 people to cover all the platforms. But that used to be challenged and it's better today. I would challenge the notion that it's about creating the same experience across all devices. I think, of course, customers need to recognize your brand, be able to log in across and so forth. But you have to remember that a lot of people moving from PC to mobile, they used to book travel online before. They're still booking travel online. It's just a different device. Right? The question is, what incremental business can you get from people using mobile devices? And there I think you do have a difference, and there's a reason maybe to have a different experience. So we're looking at a couple of different segments. I'll give you an example. One is mobile phone users, business travelers on the road, insurance agent of some sorts covering a territory, many times taken into hotels, maybe the same one. They just want a slick app, 2 presses, they have their hotel booking. You don't need much more than that. Then you have another type of users that also uses the phone, and that's a lot of leisure people like ourselves, people sitting on the bus, even in the car, at home, etc. They're browsing, and to your point, they may go and book somewhere else, but they're actually there for inspiration. Right? They may be looking at their big trip to Hawaii with their family, and that's very different from the insurance agent who just wants a slick, quick booking. And then the third one is the tablet, where you see even more of this inspirational booking, and the tablet technology and the format really enables much more visuals, rich media. You have the swiping thing. So while you want to synergize your development costs, and you can better today, I think you should definitely keep in mind how you can try to increment your business by adapting differently across the different devices. But there's no silver bullet answer here. I think it's by testing and doing.
Mary?
Yes, first of all, thanks again for inviting me and for putting together such an amazing conference. On mobile, I have 2 things I would like to share. One is, for sure, it's big, and I have a couple of facts on that. And second, I would like to hammer on the point Johan was saying, and maybe take it to even a step further. So one, I guess everybody's first phone here in the audience was most likely a Nokia phone, right? And then a couple of years later, I, for instance, was very proud to have my first BlackBerry. And we should not forget that Android was launched 2008, so it's not that long ago, right? And the first device that came out was not that beautiful. And now, it's a couple of years later, the latest numbers I saw is they have like 1 billion devices activated. Every day, it's 1.5 million additional devices that go online. There's people going to the App Store from 190 countries. So nobody could see that. Actually, the founders who bought the Android technology had a lot of headwind. A lot of people told them this is the stupidest thing to do. But they were bold enough, and it has developed in this amazing platform. And today, regarding the bookings, I hear numbers like 10–15% of the bookings are on mobile. On our side, the searches, the numbers are way higher. So we have, depending on market, depending on flights or hotels, but it's more than 30%. And it's some advanced markets like, where if you spend a lot of your time in Asia, it's like in Japan, it's above 50%. So it's definitely massive. And the second thing I want to hammer on your point on the devices. I think the industry, a lot of companies started on the catalog. Then they moved that content on the desktop. Now they're moving the content on a tablet and a mobile. And the first mistake they've done, they just moved the same content on the different devices. Then became smart and said, okay, maybe we need a different experience for a tablet. We need a different experience for a mobile device. I would take it one step further and say a tablet. If somebody is on Sunday on his couch, lean back, browsing for hotels, he needs a different experience than the same person with the same device on Monday at the airport, quickly searching for a hotel. He doesn't need 500 hotels. He doesn't need a lot of pictures. He wants one hotel quickly in Madrid. So bottom line, I think the industry has to stop thinking in devices. It's more about the signals and the context of the user, because our customers, they move across these devices seamless. And a lot of companies I see have this philosophy, this is the tablet strategy, this is the mobile strategy, this is the desktop strategy. But this is not how users behave. So my recommendation is stop thinking devices, think in user context.
Yes, but I agree. You have not to think about devices, but meanwhile, you need the technology not to think about devices. And also, before going to you, Jordi, has a cost implication, because the different devices, they have different conversion, and at the end, the customer acquisition cost can vary. Maybe one day it will be exactly the same conversion, exactly. So companies, they need to think about it. I don't know, going backwards now to the OTAs, is this affecting your customer acquisition cost, this development of mobile? Or it's exactly the same as 3 years ago?
I'll take a crack. So there's there's additional cost going on, I'd say, at the moment, if you're serious about mobile for an OTA, because you really want to get a lot of app downloads. Right? It's obviously a way to create a direct channel communication with the customer on that device. Customers are not going to have 10 different apps for booking hotels, for example. Maybe 3, 5 if you're really lucky, but that's it. So there's a cost now in trying to acquire downloads. Now, once you have acquired downloads, I can stop paying that guy and that guy as an OTA, and that's to some extent. And that's a big opportunity for the OTAs, right? But I think the answer is not that it's going to be either apps or only mobile web. You're going to see, even for the same user across devices, sometimes searching, sometimes using the app. And I think, again, if you're out for inspiration, I think people will search pretty much the way they do today. If they know what they want, or just doing a repeat trick, then they're going to use their apps. But clearly, there's a big economic opportunity for an OTA to have a big install of app users.
Basically, I agree. In the sense that you have a higher marketing expenditure to get the first download of the app. But once that you have the app downloaded, the conversion of that customer, the activity of that customer is much larger than a traditional internet PC customer. And also, you increase a lot the retention of that customer. And the way that you interact with that customer is far more intelligent than before, because you can push offers. It's good for the customer and good for us, in the sense that you can push more personalized offers. You can take into account location as well for the customer, and you can retarget much better the customer. So in the end, you save money.
Jordi, you work with many companies in the travel industry. How do you see that they are taking mobility in general?
Well, let me try to bring another angle to the discussion, trying to complement our view. First of all, buenas tardes a todos, from desde Deloitte. Let me provide another angle to the discussion. And the challenge, in my opinion, is it's clear that all those innovations at the end are bringing value to the final consumers. But who is going to pay all that value? Because all those innovations, in the short term, are very good for the customer, for the final consumer. But in the short term, they are bringing a lot of complexity to the operators, because mobile is a clear linkage between mobility and late booking, for example. And late booking, as probably everyone knows, is a challenge for the company, because it provides you some complexity to manage your occupancy and, of course, your pricing, which at the end is going to dictate the final results in your profit and loss. So the challenge here is in our industry, where we have a challenge in terms of profitability. How are we able to integrate all those customer innovations, but being a profitable company and attractive for investors to put some money and reward the risk? And I think that the only way is try to think on what new opportunities, probably as Johan mentioned, brings mobility to increase our revenue base, and more than revenue, our pricing. Because at the end, if you are able to offer unique value proposition, a very customized value proposition in the last minute, I'm pretty sure that you are able to really manage better your pricing. And pricing is really, I think, one of the key topics that the industry has to manage. So I think that mobility in the short term is quite complex, and the challenge is try to integrate as much efficient as you can, trying to respect the final customer experience through all your channels, as Javier mentioned, try to ensure your customer experience and to be consistent through the different channels. But at the end, try to see new products, services that you can bring to your customers. Location-based services that could be really very valuable to increase your upsides and cross-selling and upselling in the point of consumption. So this is the challenge. Mobility as a way to increase revenue, and more than revenue, pricing, which is a challenge in the industry.
Thank you. Bernd, continuing with technology. what do you think about the wearable tech, like Google Glass? What customers are going to do with it? What is it going to be used for travel? What they will do with this? And not only Google Glass, but they are talking about other kind of devices.
So, thanks. That's what I'm saying about these devices. There's a whole series of new devices coming that also could be considered as a mobile device. The Google Glass is a mobile device, right? You can make photos, you can share pictures, you can take videos, you can talk to it, and make calls. So it's
drive as well now. You can even drive, no?
Yeah,
in the US.
And it's really mobile compared to tablets. Ladies and gentlemen, where do you think are tablets used? 80% of tablets usage is on the sofa. So it's not mobile at all, right? So these new devices are pretty interesting, I think, particularly for travel. Imagine somebody coming to Madrid, doesn't know the city very well, goes down to Plaza Mayor and the Mercado, and maybe he takes a bike and cruises around. He can use this device to navigate, can take a picture, share it. If he doesn't know what this building is, who the architect is, he can ask the device. So in some shape or form, maybe it's a glass, maybe it's a contact lens, maybe it's a watch, people will start to use the technology. And the whole philosophy of the founders is to take technology out of your way. So basically in future, when I want to take a picture here of that crowd, I have to pull out my phone and take a picture, right? If I want to navigate, I have to pull out my phone. If I want to check my emails, a lot of people sitting there and staring on their phone. So this is over. You can sit relaxed. When you need the technology, you take it, you use it, and you don't have to pull your phone out.
Yeah, for timing, for example.
Exactly, in future. So I think particularly for travel, that's a fantastic use case for tourism, exploring cities, sharing your experience instantly. So I think there's, particularly for this industry, a lot of things coming.
Let's change the subject now. Let's start talking a little bit about meta search. It's clear that TripAdvisor, but also the other meta searches, they have grown massively. And it's a clear alternative to Google in terms of marketing spend now for OTAs and hoteliers. And this question I would like at least you, Julio, but also the two OTAs, at least that you comment, how do you see? What changes are you seeing recently? Are you allocating more of your budget to meta search, or it's growing more than proportional that the spend that you are doing with Google, for example, or no, both of them, they are growing exactly the same? So Julio, how do you see it?
Well, Google can tell we are spending a lot of money at Google anyway. I think there are two different things. Meta search, we converted the whole site to meta search this year in June. The pop-up windows that we used to have was loved by all the hotels, was loved by all our OTA partners, could ask my old colleagues of Expedia. And so we didn't need to change. We changed because we saw that the world was moving at a different pace that we were going, and even though economically, at the beginning, maybe it didn't make sense, we said we have to do this. So in June, we changed to meta search, and we are 100% there. So clearly, now with meta search, what we know is a consumer wants to find, if they can, all the information, search and see availability, and then be able to go to the partner and book. And then can compare prices, compare reviews in our case, and then make the purchase decision and have it in one device. And we doubled down on that because I myself launched Trip Connect, which actually is taking the meta search to the actual independent hotel and to the smaller hotels, not just the big chains. And with Trip Connect, we're also giving access to the hotels to compete in the meta search. So clearly our marketing spend and our development and engineering spends has been going in that direction. And we are going to even farther than that. We are now discussing, cannot say too much yet, but I mean assisted booking, what we call, in the web, because we think, we know that the consumer wants to, continue in the device they are, whether it's a tablet or it's a desktop or it's a mobile phone, and then we can help give all the information to that traveler, and then take that traveler and send it to eDreams or send it to Alcon or send it to hotels.com, whoever. And that's what we are doing. So yes, very important for us, a meta search, together with our colleagues. It's funny that, or peculiar if you think about it, that Priceline bought Kayak and then Expedia bought Trivago. Clearly both in the big meta search. So that's what the world is now.
What about the two OTAs? What is hotels.com and in eDreams? Do you spend more money proportionally than before to meta search, or you spend more
than before,
everywhere?
Yes.
And more than proportionally to Google, or both they're growing exactly at the same path?
Let me answer that in a vague way. I think meta is interesting. The first time the meta discussion was around is probably 5, 6, if not even 7 years ago. And a lot of people in the industry predicted the immediate death of the OTAs. Because why go to an OTA when you can aggregate everything here? Now, it took quite a while for it to really take off. And I think it's when, obviously, people like TripAdvisor with enormous amounts of users moved to the model. Trivago and Kayak started pushing the hotel product. It really never took off in a very big way as a flight option. And Google HPA obviously pushing very big on the hotel side as well. So I still don't predict death for the OTAs. But I think the OTA industry has to take it much more seriously this time. Now, solution again, back to the mobile discussion. This is like, there's a customer proposition here that a lot of consumers like. Right? You get comparison, you see the prices next to each other. And no matter what people say, price is by far the single most important factor. So we have to follow, consumer likings. I think it's an opportunity. You have an arms race of very well-funded, smart technology companies, Google, TripAdvisor, hotels combined, Trivago, Kayak, a bunch of local players. If they're willing to, build brands out there and drive users, in a way helping the online ecosystem for online travel, obviously if we can play well there as an OTA, it's an opportunity. It's a threat at the same time, but there's no backing away from it, and I think we're just going to continue to invest in the area. We bought Trivago for that reason.
And Julio, OTA, meta search, are they move to become an OTA at the end? How do you see this? Because with this multi-device proposition, tends to move to one website to another website while you are in a good environment. Why to do this?
I thought you just said the opposite, that the OTAs will become in beta search. Now you're saying the beta search will become OTAs.
Yes.
No, just pulling your leg. No, really. We believe in the comparison. We believe in as I said, with the assisted booking on mobile devices, which we're doing just for the mobile. That's something that we see that the consumer wants to see, that price comparison, and what we have to do is continue innovating there. And we still want to be, in a way like Google. We have enormous traffic, 260 million users every month. And we want to bring that traffic to the hotels and to the restaurants and to the attractions, as we do also with the flights. And if you think about it, if I go to any agency, online or offline, both, and I hand them a customer already that has decided on the purchase, that has decided that that's the price I want to buy, there is availability there for the day, that's what they want. Then they're going to fulfill that booking, pay me whatever they have to pay me, and then they said, why would I become an OTA? So it doesn't make sense to us. I hope that answers.
Odigeo has also recently acquired Liligo, that is a meta search in France, no?
Yeah, true. We acquired Liligo from SNCF, from the railways, French railways, and we plan to use our technological capacity to help to development of the meta search. What I would say, answering all the questions in a row, is that yes, we invest in meta searches as part of our marketing strategy. I will be as bad as him. The second thing is that I subscribe also. I don't believe meta search will become an OTA, because there are a couple of skills that the meta search would. First, it doesn't need it, and second, there are skills that need to acquire to be online or normal travel agent. For example, managing payment, fulfilling, giving customer service, things like that, that actually currently meta-search are not providing to customers. And sometimes, and something that is, when you think about it, is that meta-search have taken, at least European meta-searches, have taken quite a lot in taking off, in monetizing, because when you think, when a couple of meta-searchers started, they started at the same time than eDreams ODGeo. So 14 years ago, and today they are 4, 5, 6 times smaller. So the business model was there since the beginning, but not till very lately has been monetizing that business model and having good results.
Bernd, O'Leary, the CEO of Ryanair, said last week that together with Google, you are developing the ultimate meta search for flights. What can you tell about that?
So I guess everybody in the audience knows Mr. O'Leary very well. He loves to make these kind of statements. We have partners that negotiate with us and don't talk that much about it, and others that love to make these kind of statements. So I guess everybody in the audience knows what this is all about. But at Google, we have a very customer-centric thinking. So we are a search engine, right? And if somebody comes to Google searching for the weather, he doesn't want links. Like, he wants to know how the weather is in Madrid. Like, if somebody comes to Google wants to know what the euro is to the pound or what, good morning means in Spanish, he wants an answer. And the same thing is true with flights and hotels and other products, that if somebody comes to Google and wants to search for a flight to London, he wants to know, who's flying, what time, what will it cost. So we try to evolve our product from, links, pure links, from, to really answers and assisting. So the next generation of search is, for instance, some people have maybe installed on their phone Google Now. So when tomorrow morning I have a flight back to London, my phone understands that I'm flying tomorrow. It knows which airline, it knows from which terminal. It understands where I stay overnight. It understands where I have my last meeting. It knows the traffic. So before I even do any search, it tells me when I should leave the hotel to be on time. So that's how we're evolving search, from blue links over assisting you and making suggestions. And we're coming from that perspective. We're not thinking about, meta or OTAs and business models. It's more like, if somebody's searching for that, how do we quickly get him the answer?
I think that, Joan, I can contribute to the discussion.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I think that what Bernd mentioned, I think is really a future trend in the industry. And right now, we can observe some kind of battles, I will say, between the operators, the hoteliers, the airlines, and the OTAs. And if you try to bring some common sense to that discussion, what is needed to ensure that in all that discussions you add value to the industry, the only way is to see where you can partner and together think what bring values for each of the stakeholders. And probably for that company, for that airline company, makes more sense to partner with Google than trying to invest alone thousands of euros on online capacities, So I think that it's more intelligent, try to see from the industry who could be the best partners from the technology side, from the intermediaries side, and then decide and choose what is your best channel strategy. What are going to be your budget allocation for direct selling, for trying to have a more big loyal customer base, and what are you going to partner with OTAs and the rest of the companies in the value chain. I think this is a very interesting trend in the future, try to see where it makes sense to compete and where it makes sense to partner between distributors and industry.
Okay, let's change subject. Let's now put apart a little bit trends and let's talk a little bit about the market, the European market. and focusing mainly in the accommodation online in Europe. Christmas days, I was a few days visiting my parents, and I saw my mother with the iPad I gave her 2 years ago, and she was browsing, and I found that she was in Booking.com. And I asked, Mom, what is this Booking.com? She said, very easy. This is a search engine that when you look for a hotel in Google, always appears top in the list. My question, Ben, is, are you not putting too much eggs in the same basket? You're working so closely with Booking, and they are so big. And here there are many hoteliers that they collaborate with them. But how you make the other guys happy in Europe?
So Booking is definitely a very successful company, very smart guys, and they gained a lot of market share. That's for sure. For the hoteliers, they become more important as other channels. But we are far away from the situation you described. We have like a million advertisers, and even if some numbers that you find in the press, if you compare to our total revenues, it's pretty marginal. So each time somebody searches for a hotel, he has several choices because there's thousands of travel advertisers. He might go to a sponsored link, he might go to a free, he might go to the map. And each time he makes a choice. And we talked this morning about branding a bit. So basically a brand he trusts, right? But I think the internet actually is a level playing field, and it rarely happens that there's only one advertiser. Like there's always a lot of advertiser choices. So again, Booking is a fantastic company, but I think we are far away from the situation you're describing.
Okay. So for the two OTAs, what do you think about it? And then a second question about the same. Are we facing in Europe, in the accommodation field, the winner takes it all situation? And yes or not? I think you will say no. But if you say no, why? How do you prove that this is not the case?
You have to defend it? Yes. So, enviable competitor, very, very good at what they're doing. But the answer is still no, even in Europe, where they've arguably been most successful, for two reasons. One, we're far from some kind of saturation of online travel, right? Even in the accommodation space. Take Spain as an example. I think, at least per Focusrite's estimates, the online part of the travel market is still sitting at 30, maybe 30+%. Compare that to the UK, where it might be 45, maybe 50. In the US, we're above 60% now in terms of online penetration. So there's plenty of space to go. It's a rising tide. Consumers and businesses are moving in this direction. So if you play well in this space, there's definitely more space for only one player. I think the other reason why it's not a winner takes all should come from the supplier side. Like, no supplier would ever want to have a monopoly on their distribution. That's just stupid, hole in the head. Now, Booking happens to be very good. They have good prices. They've gone very aggressive in the market. But you still don't want to end up on one channel. Just like no one should necessarily only work with Expedia. Did I say that? But that's the truth, right? So I think you'll see these things even out over time. You'll see hotels doing much more direct business through a Meta or appearing on Google. And competition for your distribution from a supplier is very important. That would be my encouragement.
Javier?
We are partners of Booking, and we are partners of Hotels.com. So we don't compete with them, because I think both companies are category leaders in hotels, while we are category leaders worldwide in flights. So we are in a different niche. So we partner with those two companies that have a very good product for us, and we concentrate on our own core product.
Jordi, how do you see the OTA market in Spain? from an independent point of view, how this is evolving, and what do you expect for the next year, for the future? And do you see any M&A movement or expected for the coming months?
Well, what we can see nowadays is that the good news is that Spain is in the loop. So just from the global picture, foreign investors are really right now interested in our market. So from a starting point, there is some investors who are interested on penetrating in our local markets. In addition to that, I think that it has been clear in the last years that Spanish companies have demonstrated that they are able to reinvent and to rebuild their capacity to differentiate, to get global, and to compete in a global market. So in addition to just the better branding of our country, the reality demonstrates that we have good companies, good management teams, and plenty of private investors who have been reinventing their businesses for a long period of time. So if we go direct to the online market, there is a gap, an opportunity in terms of growth, as Johan mentioned, that in Spain the online booking market share accounts for 35% approximately of the total, and probably there is, or sure, there is some space for increasing that online booking. So who is going to fill that gap between the current online bookings and the future probably 50-60% of online bookings? We have three different types of actors. We have the traditional tour operators who are currently reinventing their strategy. The tour operators who are coming from the traditional travel agency, but who are very strong in the Spanish market. And some of them are surviving, as you can see, and they are going to put some money to rebuild their online capacity. So part of that gap is going to be covered by traditional tour operators who are very strong and very, very strong with the local Spanish market. And in addition to that, we have very powerful operators, very powerful brands who are also investing on loyalty programs, trying to increase their direct selling, their online direct selling to the final consumers. So that gap is also is going to be filled by current operators, hoteliers, and airline companies. And the third critical actor who could fill that gap are the online travel agencies. And if we go to that type of companies, I think that the technology online market, one requirement is that you need scale. If you want to survive, to recuperate all of that investment, huge investment, you need scale. Scale in terms of the markets that you serve, to be able to get as much customers as you can, as much global as you can, and together with that market-facing global activity, you need to ensure, as online travel agency, that you are able to build a global suppliers network, which at the end means scales. It's clear that we have still in Spain some companies that have limited scale, and for them it's really a challenge to be able to make money in the future and to be sustainable companies in the long term. So some alternative from current companies will have to be analyzed on how to ensure sustainability for the long term. So yes, the answer is we think that there is going to be some consolidation in that industry.
We have 8 minutes left. I would like to talk about two things. So the first one is big data. That it's a massive topic in general, but very important for the travel industry. There is the belief that you are that data company or you will not survive. And this is mainly about managing this huge amount of data internally that you already have about your customers, but also externally to really help them in terms of the products you present to them. So maybe Julio, you have maybe you could develop this, and then if there is anyone else, Ben or Johan, that you want to add something on this, and then we will do social media as last topic.
Thank you. Yeah, TripAdvisor is all about what everybody calls big data. And we have so many engineers, PhDs everywhere just looking at data. In my own team, I have what is called Big Team, which is the business intelligence group. And so what we do is all intelligence, from owner engagement in the site, segmentation of our clients, where are they coming, where do they go, from which type of hotels, at what price, to which cities, from where. And we are providing a lot of those analytics to our clients too, in a way that Google Analytics, which you can talk about that, we have our own, in business listings, we provide TripAdvisor Analytics if you want. So for us, data is so important. And of course, when you have 260 million users, you are obviously, you can extrapolate a lot of information thanks to that data. So, I mean, I don't want to extend myself very much, but without data, we wouldn't be where we are. And we are obsessive about data. Our boss, our founder, Steve Kaufer, is a Harvard engineer. In my meetings, I manage global sales for the company. But I was saying to somebody before, from my friends from Iberostar, and I was talking about, I go to talk about the year, and he starts asking the hours and the calls that every salesperson spends in which country, and why here 5 minutes and not 7.5 minutes. And we do algorithms for everything. So clearly for us, it's very important. And then to share that data with our partners, or part of that data, is also very important to our success.
Any comments?
I have a very short answer. Basically, is it working? 4 numbers, just to give you an illustration what big data is in our scale. We have 60 trillion websites in our index. We have to update every day, we have to crawl every day 20 billion pages. And there's 100 billion searches a month, and it takes the machines a quarter of a second for the average response. Don't ask me how we do this. If I just look at these numbers, I don't know, it's just mind-boggling. So that's my only comment.
Thank you.
I have some comment related to big data, because plenty of consultants are talking about big data. And
1 minute, Jordi, because...
Yeah, no, just 1 minute. I mean, my only recommendation is to be very, very practical, because I have seen, and I see right now in the room, some operators that are really making very good profits and making money without investing on big data. So it's clear that there are some relevant opportunities to invest that, but you have to be sure that every euro that you invest on big data has a return if you don't want to die in the effort. So the first is how to protect your profitability, and then to see how you can expand it. If not, you can be crazy and lose a lot of money with all that external influence on big data, big data, and big data.
Okay, let's move to the last topic. We have 3-4 minutes for this. This is social media. Social media is very important, not only to have a relationship with your customer, but also because has become a leading source of knowing much better your customer and really tailor the product you offer to them. What are your companies doing about it? I know, for example, TripAdvisor, you work very closely with Facebook, but the others, I'm sure that you do similar things. What are your companies doing about it? How this is going? And then also, what is the role of video in terms of helping the customer to take a choice about when this customer wants to book this or go to here or go to another destination?
I get a headache from social media because I look at the revenue numbers that we directly attribute to the channel social media, and I don't look at it particularly long because it's so small. And then I look at Facebook and 1.1 billion users, and Google Plus with almost as many, and you're trying to determine, what's important here. So, point is, it is very important because that's what users do. I think the two biggest areas of impact is, one, it has quite a big influence in terms of signal setting on search, right? So you can rank better in natural search if you're seen and talked about and viraled around in social media context. So it helps you in Google and other search engines around the world. Secondly, Facebook is being very aggressive in the mobile space. So 70% of all Facebook users are now logging in through their phone. They also use Facebook on their PCs. So they are actually starting now to enable this multi-device tracking opportunity that everyone has been looking for. And that's it on social.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for your collaboration, and thank you to the audience as well.